Week 1 is in the books. Not week 0, Gary. Week 1 is in the books of high school football. This is the Under the Lights podcast. I'm Kyle Parmley, joined by Gary Lloyd. Gary, I see you paying a little homage to the Intimidator today. Love the Dale Earnhardt t-shirt.
Oh yeah. I mean, a nice little Walmart find, and you see the Intimidator for $6 to $8. You've got to pull the trigger. So rocking with Dale today.
There's plenty of great phrases that have gone along with Dale Earnhardt's career, but one of the best I've ever heard, Dale Earnhardt drove for Richard Childress Racing, RCR, and I always heard the story of this guy that his battle cry was basically RTR on Saturdays, RCR on Sundays.
That's wonderful. I like that. I didn't wear it there, but we recently went out to Talladega and did the museum tour and did the track tour and all that, and took a nice little picture of my son in front of the Dale Earnhardt car that they've got there, and he's holding up that 3. So I've got that, and that'll be a good memory. He was more enamored with the M&M's car because of M&M's,
Yep.
But I was like, we got to go check out the Intimidator's car,
Got to get them started right. But
That's right.
All right, so high school football podcast here, as you could tell already. We're presented by Sinlawn this year. Under the Lights, Sinlawn of Alabama is your go-to for all things artificial turf. Whether you're looking to upgrade your backyard, create a pet-friendly space, or enhance your golf game with a custom putting green, Sinlawn has the solution for you with top-notch installations for both residential and commercial use and wholesale turf sales. Sinlawn of Alabama is the premier choice for artificial turf in the state. Call 205-590-9549, or you can visit the showroom at 2018 Old Montgomery Highway. Sinlawn, artificial grass, never looked more natural. You can go check it out in Gary's backyard later on. Just let him know. All right, Gary, I've got a stat for you that might surprise you a little bit. Oak Mountain, the Eagles, have won 8 straight season opening games after their win over Briarwood on Friday night. That's 8 straight years Oak Mountain is 1-0.
That is surprising given, I remember last year the struggles that they had after opening 1-0, and then they lose 9 straight to cap the year. But yeah, 8 straight years of winning your opener is that's always getting off to a good start, and we'll see if they can continue that this year and keep rising and keep building in year 2 under Shane McComb.
Yeah, because out of the last 7 years, they've only made the playoffs twice. So definitely a big task. But it's always great to start 1-0, kind of get the ball rolling in the right direction. Oak Mountain beat Briarwood on Friday night. I was there. It was our first Under the Lights game of the week of the year. And I got to see a few cool things from Briarwood. They busted out a couple of trick plays. One of them looked like they've been practicing for a while. You get the halfback pass to the wide open receiver down the sideline for a touchdown. That was normal. You've seen that play before. However, I will say later on in the game, after Briarwood scored a touchdown, they line up for the extra point, and kicker Garrett Heineman is looking back to the sideline, frantically waving his arms like, "Where's my holder? Where's my holder?" He had done that on his previous field goal attempt, and I don't know if it was intentional that both of those things happened, but Garrett, looking at the sideline, frantically waving for his holder, didn't look that out of place because it had happened a few moments before that. However, this time after the touchdown, while Garrett is frantically waving his arms and everybody's looking at him, Briarwood snaps the ball to Brooks Allred, and he just runs it in for the 2-point conversion. So after the game, we go up to head coach Matthew Forster, and he looks at me and he goes, "Yeah, I think I came up with that trick play in the shower a couple days ago."
Sometimes the best thinking is done in the shower. We hear of shower thoughts all the time, and you think of the most random stuff. And I guess that's the football version of like a hidden ball trick in baseball or something like that. But that's funny. Maybe they've already used it up, but I hope I get to see something like that this fall.
Yeah, so it was a really fun game, and I mean, let's dive into some of the games that we saw last week to open up the high school season. Oak Mountain 38, Briarwood 28. This is a really good game. The star of the show, Will Odell, though, goes over 400 total yards, nearly 200 on the ground, over 200 through the air, completes his last 16 passes. It was really impressive. We saw this Oak Mountain team really struggle after winning their first game last year, but I gotta be honest, like the team that I saw, Briarwood tested them. Briarwood returned the opening kickoff of the third quarter for a touchdown. They scored again later on, and they kept the pressure on, and Oak Mountain just responded every time with long, sustained drives that really looked like a team that was ready to kind of turn the page from being a team that is, counted upon to wilt late in games. They finished strong, and I've really enjoyed watching them kind of finish that one out on Friday.
Yeah, it sounds like they did exactly what they wanted to, like from how last season went, and you target that week one game, and we want to do this, we're going to script that, and we want to see this from our guys. And it sounds like they really checked all of those boxes. And like you said, Will Odell, I know had a very busy summer, traveling around, going to different camps, improving his game. So 400 plus yards of total offense. Marty Myrick back there running the ball. He's got some weapons that, some guys with some sure hands. This doesn't seem like, we're 1 week. We don't want to overreact by any means. That schedule is only going to get incredibly tougher, but definitely not the same team that it was last year. And may I just say that Walker Shook for Oak Mountain might be on our all-name team this year. That is an incredible football name.
Absolutely, and he made some plays going up to get him on Friday night. So number 81 for the Eagles, look out for him. But here's a quick soundbite from head coach Shane McComb after the game.
How about Will Odell tonight?
Everybody knows he's a stud, man. Love that kid. Great player. He's a difference maker out here for sure. So it's nice to have him on our team.
What can a win like this do for this group?
Guys, look, Oak Mountain needs to be a program. A program means we're a very young team right now. Like the program means every year you'll have a lot of seniors starting, right? So we're trying to get to that point. We're young this year. We're going to be a lot older next year. Developing the youth, get this program going. So guys, this is big. Important for us to start off with a good win. But it's only one game, 1 week at a time this year. Just going to take care of Pelham. And nothing matters after that. Right now it's 1 week at a time. We just got to continue to get better as a team. I just want to see us be better than we were this week.
All right, so the Eagles will be looking to sustain some of that momentum, become a program to be reckoned with in Class 7A Region 3. Gary, let's talk about another Region 3 team, Hoover. I'm guessing most of you watching this did not see the game because the game was all the way in South Florida on Saturday night. But Hoover, man, what an impressive comeback in interim head coach Chip English's first game. The Bucks beat Western 17-14. James Bryant drills the 38-yard field goal with, less than 20 seconds to go in the game to win it. Gary, I don't know if you got to watch this game, but JJ Moultrie was all over the place for Hoover. I mean, throughout the game, he broke up a couple passes, which is normal. He was a ball hawking defender last year. But when Western scored its second touchdown in the game, JJ comes flying in. He blocks the extra point, keeps it at 14-7, which is a big deal at that moment. And then on the ensuing kickoff, Moultrie takes it and houses it. And this guy was all over the place in this game. His kickoff return tied the game at 14, and then Hoover's offense took care of the rest and got the game-winning field goal. But it wasn't really pretty, but you got to love the resilience from this Bucks team to just hang in there all they've been through all preseason to hang in there and get that done.
Yeah, I mean the word I wrote down was just gritty. They've been through so much in a short time. Really, it's not like this stuff with former head coach Drew Gilmer, former defensive coordinator Adam Helms happened months and months ago. Like it happened last month where all this stuff really started coming out. So they've had to cram a lot into a little bit of time, and then to have a season opener like that where we talked about it with Coach English last week, the logistics of going somewhere like that. You didn't open at Spain Park. You didn't open, at home against somebody. You flew on a plane to South Beach, like that. There's a lot involved there. So just, if it was ugly, we expect some ugliness in a week one game. We expect to see a lot of yellow handkerchiefs and stuff like that on the field. But yeah, like you said, JJ Moultrie picking up where he left off last year. Dude can make plays from anywhere on a football field. And the main thing I really want to know from this game, I know you weren't there, but how much did you have to pay Chandler Fullman for that photo to run with the game story? Because I know it had to be a pretty penny.
Yeah, I think I owe Chandler lunch now or something like that. I think he actually owes me lunch, so maybe now we're even. I don't know. But yeah, Chandler was one of the Hoover representatives on that trip, and really thankful for his help. He talked to James after the game. He asked him what he felt like before the game winning kick, and James Bryan admitted, "Hey, I was a little bit nervous." As you could imagine. So good win for the Bucks. Gary, I want to run through some of our other results from Friday night. Chelsea beats Mobile Christian 24-3. That's a good win for Chelsea over the defending 3A champs. That's their first win in a season opener since 2016. And so kind of flipping the script from Oak Mountain there. Mountain Brook shuts out Demopolis 28-0. Spain Park blows past Sparkman 38-7. Homewood wins the Battle of Lakeshore 35-6. Clay Chalkville takes down Hueytown 28-7. Hewitt Trustful rolls past Jag 50-6. And Vestavia falls to Carver Montgomery 41-19. Those are all the other games we had. Gary, anything stand out to you from those results?
The game I was at, Hewitt Trustful Jag, I wouldn't say there's a lot that stands out just because the talent disparity right there right now is just too much for Jag. They returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown, and they went backwards for the rest of the last 59 minutes and 47 seconds of that game. But Hewitt Trustful did what it needed to do, broke in a lot of new guys. I think 10, 11 guys got carries. So, they gained experience in that one. And then I think what stood out to me looking at those other games really was Chelsea and that defensive effort and Chase Strassner running the ball for them against a team that won 4A last year. And then Mountain Brook being sneaky Mountain Brook getting another shutout. We talked about these questions and this youth and, we only return this many guys. And I don't know what Demopolis is going to be like this year, but you go on the road, kind of a quirky kind of road game to start, and you go down there and shut them out. So very impressive there. And then everything else, pretty much what we expected. Brock Bradley throws 5 touchdowns for Spain Park. And I don't know, just a kind of nothing really stood out as a surprise or anything like that. I think most of these games went about how we thought they would.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's good to see some new faces get broken in at quarterback, some familiar faces get the season started off well. So we'll definitely see how that unfolds for all of those teams. Gary, let's go ahead and talk about our top performers from last week. If you follow Under the Lights on Twitter at UnderLights365, you had a chance to vote in this week's Player of the Week Top Performers poll. And here's the 4 that we came up with out of Friday night's game. We talked about Oak Mountain quarterback Will Odell, 197 rushing yards, 208 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Incredible game from him. He was all over the place. Really did that stereotypical leader thing. Played really well, but also commanded the offense in a really positive way. Mountain Brook running back Stuart Andrews. He went over 100 yards for the Spartans, and the defense dominated to help that out too. So Stuart Andrews, great start to the year for him. Homewood running back Evan Osmer also goes over 100 yards for the Patriots. He scored a couple of touchdowns. The Patriots won big. And then Spain Park quarterback Brock Bradley, like you mentioned, threw for 5 touchdowns in that season opening win for the Jags as well. So with all of that being said, Gary, our vote was pretty close. We had over 800 votes. And Will Odell won this week's Player of the Week award. He got 35% of the vote, edging out Evan Osmer from Homewood, who got 31%. So both of those guys, all 4 of these guys, tremendous weeks, tremendous performances. And I'll tell you, if Hoover had played on Friday, JJ Moultrie would have been in this list as well because he had a great game too. But speaking of Player of the Week, let's hear from him now. Will Odell, senior quarterback at Oak Mountain. Will, thanks for joining us today, man. You guys had a great win on Friday night.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. It's a blessing.
Yeah, just tell me a little bit about the mindset of the team. You know, obviously last season was rough, and this season's kind of a fresh start. So, what was last off season, over the spring, over the summer? What was that like for you guys?
You know, it was a you could tell in the off season, you know, a switch in mindset, and we really took a very confident approach and used that last year's you know, loss and not successful as motivation going into this year. And a lot of these seniors that are starting this year have been starting since sophomore year, so it's kind of like the last ride for us. And the mindset going into the last week was we owe them one. You know, they beat us the past couple years and went out and performed well as a team, and felt amazing for sure.
What was that difference kind of last off season heading into the 2023 season versus this past season? You know, like Shane's there another year. Like what was maybe different that kind of helped shift that mindset?
Well, so you know, going into that 2023 off season, you know, we had Coach Crane left, and Coach McComb got there in April. So all that period between December and March, April, late March, you know, we didn't really have a coach. So that really took a step back, and everyone else is growing during that time. And this year we started November, getting after off-season workouts as a group, going in every day, and it really just helped us as a team get stronger and grow together.
Yeah, how about from what I got to see on Friday night, it seemed like a lot of times last year, um, you know, plays would break down regularly, and it feels like everybody's just kind of running for their life a little bit at times. But it seemed like you guys were really in control, especially on the offensive side of the ball. You were able to sit back and make your throws and deliver, passes that were on time. And then even when you needed to break out of the pocket and run a little bit, you were able to do that as well. How good can an offense be when you guys kind of have everybody on the same page and able to do their assignments so that, as a whole, you can do the things that you want to do?
Yeah, so obviously you can never have a perfect game. So we took a lot and built and looked in the film, and we'll build and continue to make improvements. But yeah, we were very successful, and I pay a large testament to Coach Holder. You know, he worked and found a great offense that fit our personnel very well, that we hope to make corrections on. And all three aspects of skill position, backfield, and up front, all played really hard. And I gotta give it for my guys up front. They worked hard all night. And last year, that was the difference in the game, that defensive line for Briarwood. They kicked our tail all night last year, and our linemen took it personal, and they played a great game.
You mentioned you can never have a perfect game, but 400 plus yards of total offense for you through the air and on the ground, that's close to perfect. Did you surprise yourself at all with the production Friday night, or was that pretty much what you expected?
I knew I could do it, and I just kind of been working and throwing, and my guys getting open, and Marty open up the run game and big gaps. It makes it a lot easier for sure. But no, I was not surprised. We knew how successful we can be as a unit, and we just proved it Friday.
Yeah. Now, Gary, I don't know the calculations for like the NFL passer rating, but I think Will might have had close to a perfect rating. I mean, 21 of 26. He completed his last 16 of the game. Like, I mean, that's hard to do in practice, much less in the middle of a game. So, it was really impressive to see. So I gotta know which gives you more satisfaction though, when you drop a dime to somebody down the sideline for a big play, or when you get on the move and you kind of lower your shoulder and truck somebody running up the middle of the field.
Well, I gotta say, it's got to be that drop a dime, letting my guy go make a play. Because, I always know that I got my feet and I can go make a play with my legs. But, having a good protection, to have a good pass, to have a great catch, that always feels good for the whole team, for sure.
Now that we're in the season, and it's real live football. It's Friday Night Lights. It's all those things. I know you had a really busy summer. You probably went to a lot of camps, visited a lot of schools. What were some of the places you went to, and what kind of things did you learn about yourself this summer that have helped so far?
Yeah, so you're right. I did have a very busy summer. I traveled to numerous camps. Did one in Kennesaw State, Mercer, Murray State. Went up to New York with Columbia and Fordham, Bryant, Sanford. It was a busy summer for sure, and I learned a lot about myself as I competed with fellow quarterbacks in those camps to try to earn an opportunity. And as a team this summer, we have practice workouts every morning, and we continue to grow with OTAs with Marbury and Montevallo. I learned a lot about competitiveness and, the will to win in everything you do.
Few more moments with Oak Mountain quarterback Will Odell. Will, so last year you guys started out with a nice win to go to 1-0, and obviously the rest of the season didn't go that direction. So how does this team, flip that on its head? How do you take 1-0 and make it 2-0 this week against Pelham, and then kind of keep building on that as we go throughout the season?
Yeah, so after that big Friday win, we've just been preaching to the team, this is kind of how last year started, and now how are we going to respond? So we're looking forward to Pelham. They're a good team. They're tough, athletic. They had a big win over us last year that we felt was, neck and neck the whole game, and we should have closed it out, but just couldn't do the job, and looking to pay it back for them this year.
Who's the bigger non-region rival, Briarwood Christian or Pelham?
That's a tough one. Since we're playing Pelham this week, it's Pelham.
Love it.
I love that. Love that. Well, hey, Will, we really appreciate you jumping on with us today. Great job last Friday night. That was really impressive to see. I think, just personally, one of the things that was most impressive to me was the fact that, Briarwood pushed you guys in the second half, and you guys had sustained drives all night and were able to seal the deal. And that's the sign of an improving football team, I think.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me. It's truly an honor. Thank you so much.
All right. That's Will Odell on Under the Lights. All right, Gary, moving on to week 2 of the high school football season. Everybody playing another non-region game this week as we really kind of settle into the rhythm and the routine. We start kind of figuring out who's good, who's got a long way to go, that type of deal. Ready to announce this week's game of the week. If you looked at the schedule, Gary's got the drum roll going. I'm going to go to the city rivalry, Gary. Spain Park paying a visit to Hoover at the Hoover Met on Friday night. This rivalry game has kind of maybe had its ups and downs in recent years. There were a few years where Hoover was really, really good and Spain Park was kind of struggling. And then, the balance has kind of like the seesaw has kind of gone the other direction. It's been slowly getting back to the middle lately. And we saw that last year. Hoover edged out Spain Park in a really good game last year that ultimately ended up being the difference in Hoover making the playoffs and Spain Park not. They're not in the same region anymore. Spain Park's down to 6A. But this has got the makings of a really, really good football game. Spain Park was really impressive in their opener. Hoover got a lot going on, like we discussed, but they look really talented and like you said, a gritty football team. So I don't really know how this one's going to shake out, Gary. I'm excited to be out there for it.
Yeah, I mean, power offense versus some grit. At least what we've seen week 1. Can that Hoover secondary cover enough and stay tight enough to prevent some of those threaded throws from Brock Bradley? And can the Hoover offense, move the ball against Spain Park defense, find enough room to, find enough room to run, find some things over the top. And, that sounds like any football game. Obviously, I just think this is such an intriguing game for a lot of reasons. Spain Park last year in this game, they had so many injuries at this point. Like they had so many, like I don't remember how many guys they had trying to run the ball that game. Wasn't
They
it
were down
like,
to their sixth string running back, I think, at that point.
yeah, so, guys hopefully being healthy this week. Hopefully we get everybody 100%. It's a week 2 game and, we get the best out of both of them. And really just, I don't know, I'm just super intrigued with this one. I think you've got potentially a really good game to go to. And this Hoover group being kind of rejuvenated now, you have all the stuff we talked about, but then you go down to Florida and you win that game the way you win it. It was gritty, yes. It was ugly at times, yes. But ultimately, you end on a high with, you kick a game winner with 18 seconds left, and the plane ride home's got to be a lot of fun. And now you get you come to your building and you're opening against Spain Park. It's just down the street. So I think there's a lot of fun to be had at this game, and no idea how it's going to turn out. And those are the kinds of games we like.
Yeah, well, Gary, I figured your favorite thing about this would be the idea that even though they're not region foes anymore, they had the foresight to continue to schedule one another, being right down the road.
Oh yeah, I mean, this was I talked to Coach Vikakis over the summer. Well, I say over the summer. This was back right after reclassification in December, and once they knew for sure they were going down, one of the first phone calls was, "Hey, we got to keep you on the schedule," and Hoover reciprocated, "We're keeping you on the schedule," and that's the way we do rivalries. Let's keep them on the schedule. So that one worked out, and it's going to benefit both programs and both communities this week.
Absolutely. Let's run through all the other games we've got this week. We should have a really entertaining slate overall. We've got one Thursday game, Clay Chalkwell, heading to Legion Field to play Ramsey. This Clay Chalkwell team got off to a good start last week in the season opener. Stuart Floyd's first game as head coach. Aaron Fry's first game as the guy at quarterback, and it looked like he and Jabari Staples have found a quick connection. They connected 3 times for touchdown against Hueytown. So good start for the Cougars. Ramsey, they lost big to Parker, but I think a lot of people are going to lose big to Parker this year. So it's kind of hard to get a real gauge on what Ramsey might be this year. But we'll see. I mean, this has got the makings of a game between 2 pretty good football teams.
Yeah, it seems like, I don't know what Hueytown's going to be this year, but maybe Ramsey is a little bit better. Maybe it's a little bit stiffer of a test. You're having to travel a little bit this week, and just string together that consistency for a relatively young offense, led by Aaron Fry, who, everybody talking around Clay is, hey, he's the next guy up. Clay has had some incredible quarterbacks over the years, and he seems to be the next one, but you've just got to keep putting it together. And if you've got a guy like Jabari Staples to throw it to, who he found a lot Friday night, your success rate will be pretty good. So interested to see how they go into Legion Field and how they play against what should be a pretty good Ramsey team.
Full docket of games on Friday night. Gary, we'll start with the one that you will be at. Briarwood paying a visit to Homewood. These teams have been region foes the last couple of years. They're not anymore with Briarwood dropping down to 5A. But talk to either one of these coaches. They have a great amount of respect for one another. They enjoy competing against one another. And this is a second straight game for Briarwood to play up. They played a 7A team in Oak Mountain last week. They're playing a 6A team in Homewood this week. So this is a good opportunity for Briarwood. We don't know the status of Luke Reynolds, the do-it-all running back, linebacker, safety, who got hurt early in that Oak Mountain game. Not sure if he'll be back, but either way, this is a good opportunity for Briarwood to, make a lot of improvement from week 1 to week 2. That's one thing that Matthew Forrester touched on after the game last week, and they'll go up against a Homewood team that's got to be feeling pretty good after the way they beat John Carroll last week.
Yeah, if Luke Reynolds can't go, could be a tough night. I think this is another tough matchup for Briarwood to start the year with. They're breaking in new guys and, trying to find that identity on both sides of the ball. And, but that's what you want early in the season too, against a non-region opponent. Whether you win or lose doesn't count for the playoffs, so it's go in, try to keep everybody healthy, compete, try to get the win, and really take some things to learn heading into region play the following week. And then they've got a lot of guys they're going to have to slow down. Like we talked about last week. This Homewood offense this year seems like it could be really explosive, really dynamic, really versatile. And so I'm curious just to see that. Not seeing Homewood in person last year. That's what I'm looking forward to the most, is seeing what Will Myers looks like at quarterback, getting a glimpse of Evan Osmer running the ball and Kylan Newell catching the ball, and I'm just excited to re-find my way out to Snow Drive out there in Homewood, and hope that I don't get there too early and come home with another rescue from the Humane Society that's right over the hill from the stadium. So
Yeah, no, that'll be a fun game though. Enjoy that trip out there. All right, we've got a Catholic school matchup going on. John Carroll is driving all the way down to Fairhope to play at St. Michael, who just opened a brand new football stadium. Gary, trivia question for you. Do you know who the football coach at St. Michael is?
Philip Rivers.
Philip Rivers of Indianapolis Colts lore. No, not really. More like Chargers. He did have a year with the Colts, and they were okay. But yes, John Carroll at St. Michael. Should be a fun game. Philip Rivers has been the head coach. I think this is his 4th year at St. Michael, and this is a relatively new program. They've only been around a few years more than that. They made the playoffs last year. So Philip Rivers seems to have done a really good job with this program. It's going to be a tough test for John Carroll. They got so many new guys they're breaking in. It looked like they had some flashes against Homewood last week, but going up against a talented team like the Patriots was just going to be overall too much to handle. So this is going to be much more of a level playing field, and a really good opportunity to see what John Carroll's got.
Yeah, I think so too. Like looking at, not being at John Carroll Homewood game, I know they only put up 6 points, but Garrett Barnes's stat line for John Carroll at quarterback wasn't like atrocious or anything.
John
He had
Carroll outgained Homewood in that game, by the way.
see, there you go. He threw, I think, 1 pick, and other than that, his completions and yardage seemed fine. So for a first start, I'm sure they take a lot of positives from that they're going to take down there. And trivia question back to you: who is St. Michael's quarterback?
Is it another guy named Rivers?
Gunnar Rivers, and he can sling it. So that'll be certainly a name to watch, and see how he performs, and we'll see if John Carroll can go down there and slow down that offense a little bit. They just beat Bayside Academy to start the year. So they're going down to a 4A team, and like you said, a lot more evenly matched in terms of depth and size and all those things. And I really wish I was on the bus to Fairhope, but this one will be an interesting one. It's another one of those kind of new early season games, kind of like Mountain Brook Demopolis, where you're like, how'd that come about? And I know this is 2 Catholic schools, so that's a little easier to compute. But a trip all the way down to Fairhope for week 2 sounds like a lot of fun, and I'm sure John Carroll will come back with a lot of lessons learned and a lot of confidence heading into region play.
Absolutely. A really fun 6A game. Mountain Brook is hosting Parker. These 2 teams were region foes, but they're going to keep playing this year. This is going to be a really tough test for Mountain Brook. Mountain Brook, we saw last week how just, so many new guys, but they just played so well. They gave up less than 60 total yards. They didn't give up they shut them out. They ran the ball well. Just a solid ho-hum Mountain Brook football win. But this Parker team is one that is starting the season with high hopes. They're already counted as one of the best in 6A. So if the Spartans hang around and make this a competitive game, that'll tell me a lot about what this team's made of.
Yeah, like I'm kind of with you there. Like this, I don't want to say this is one where I just look at like the scoreboard and, pull an opinion off of that, but I think there are things you can pull from that. If it's 52-6, then, it was horrible. But if let's just say Parker wins and it's 30-14, given what Parker has and given all that Mountain Brook is having to replace and how young they are, I would come away incredibly impressed with that. Last year's game when they were region foes, as you said, I was at that game and it was an absolute slog. I think the final was like 13-10 or something like
Yeah,
that.
it was.
And so, I want to see how Mountain Brook handles both sides of Parker. They seem a little more explosive on offense for this year. Last year down the stretch, quarterback play didn't quite match some of the talent on the rest of the team. And they get Dylan Reese that came over from Pinson Valley to be their quarterback, and then you've got obviously guys like Naeem Alford who can play anywhere on the field, and just a multitude of guys in that secondary as well. So Mountain Brook, their bread and butter is O-line and running the ball, and maybe that works well against this Parker team who still has Jordan Crawford on that line, but maybe you won't be throwing against those corners who are committed to Ohio State and Miami and and the Indianapolis Colts and everywhere else. So works cut out, but it'll be a good litmus test for sure.
Well, it was cool to see Caden Hoffbauer, Mountain Brook's new quarterback. He didn't have to throw much last week in the win, but he showed a lot of dual threat capability. He was able to run the ball well, had some impressive numbers on the ground. And I'm sure the coaches are going to remind him of this week. But yeah, maybe don't throw to Naeem Alford's side of the field. That's probably just, let's start there. The offensive coaches can take it the rest of the way. But that's just what I could see is probably being a key for the Spartans in that one.
Yeah, well, in the corner on the other side's going to Miami, so pick your poison.
So just return the kickoff for a touchdown and hold them from there, right?
That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. Easy
Sounds like
peasy.
a great plan. All right, Oak Mountain paying a visit to Pelham. We talked to Will Odell about it a little bit earlier in the show, but this is Pelham is replacing a ton from last year's team. This is a golden opportunity for Oak Mountain to go 2-0. It'd be a great thing for them to kind of shake off some of the stench from the way last year went after, they start 1-0 and into this Pelham game, man, they had it and they just completely let it slip away. Gary, I don't think it's going to happen this time. I think the Eagles are going to go to 2-0 and they might even make a statement in doing so.
I think you're right. I think this is kind of a statement week for them. They beat Briarwood, a non-region rival, and I think they're going, like you said, I think they're going to make that statement this week. Clayton Maines, who is kind of a dual threat quarterback guy for Pelham the last few years, has graduated, breaking in a lot of new guys. They struggled to score the ball against Pell City in a loss last week. So I think, like you said, I think it's a golden opportunity to start 2-0 and just have a really good taste in your mouth once 7A Region 3 play kicks off the next week.
Absolutely. All right, let's go to spin the wheel. Vestavia Hills paying a visit to Auburn. Vestavia really, they struggled with Carver's athleticism and talent last week. The game was close. I mean, the Rebels hung around in the first half. They were down, 13-12 late in the second quarter, and then Carver just hit the gas pedal and ran away. I think they scored 4 unanswered touchdowns, and it looked like Vestavia struggled with mistakes. They turned the ball over way too much to even compete in a game like that. So this is a chance for them to rebound, but they got to go on the road again. They got to play a really good Auburn team. Things just don't seem to get any easier for the Rebels here in week 2.
No, this is the hardest schedule in Class 7A, maybe in all classifications, top to bottom. I mean, you're playing the 7A Region 3 schedule, and then you've got Carver Montgomery, who's become a really just upstart. Like, they're really good. Watch out for them all year. And then Auburn, who's kind of a mainstay in the top 5 in 7A. And then your other non-region opponent is Clay Chalkville. And then you sandwich in 7A Region 3. So every single week is just an incredible opponent for Vestavia. So you look for that improvement, you look for that growth, like we've talked about with other teams. It's not a region game. This doesn't count for the playoffs. Let's get better. Let's get out of there injury free. Let's make some plays, and just kind of the scoreboard is what it is at the end of the game, win, lose, or draw. So a lot to work on for Vestavia. Got to protect the ball. That'll be number one, and just see if you can sustain some drives against a really good team.
Two more on the board for us. Chelsea at home against Wetumpka. This is a Wetumpka team that, usually is a solid football team. They usually make the playoffs. They're winning 5-6 games a year normally. So this is a good game for Chelsea, I think, to kind of test what they've got. Mobile Christian is it's really hard to tell when you beat a team, 2 classes lower than you, to really, because teams like that, you just have a depth advantage in a lot of ways. But this Wetumpka game for the Hornets will give me a much better idea of how good this running attack with Chase Stracner and Morgan Barnes is going to be. And if, the Hornets are ready to kind of take a step and do some damage in 6A.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Wetumpka other than they beat Beauregard last week. And yeah, you touched on the running game. So, this week you work on a little more out of the passing game, and see how that goes and see what you learn. And, great chance to start 2-0 for the first time since 2016. And maybe at the end of this Friday night, we'll have an Oak Mountain and a Chelsea at 2-0. And, in previous years, I don't know that we could have said that. So, nice to see some positive starts for both those programs.
Yeah, it really is. And then finally, Hewitt-Trussville is hosting Gadsden City. And I, for one, I'll be honest here, Hewitt-Trussville is going to get tested by Gadsden City. And this is a thing that it's so, I feel like I haven't given Ollie Smith's team and program at Gadsden City enough credit over the last several years, because he's been there a handful of years now, and they've gotten significantly better every single year. And then last year they made a run to the quarterfinals, if I'm not mistaken. And the last few years, teams like Hewitt will play this Gadsden City team, and you look at their record at the end of the year, and it's like, you're just kind of talking you're giving the coach speak. Yeah, tough team. They're going to be hard to face. They're going to be athletic and give us trouble. And they gave Hewitt a test last year, and I just kind of rolled my eyes of come on, you're just giving the right answers. But the more that I've dug into this Gadsden City program, they're a force to be reckoned with now. And Hewitt-Trussville is not going to be able to sleepwalk through this game by any means. I mean, they're the better team. They should win. Don't get me wrong, but they're going to have to show up and be ready to go against this team.
I think it might be just to double down on what you're saying. I think this might be the best game of the night on our slate. I think Hoover's Fame Park certainly has a chance to be that, but I think Hewitt and Gadsden City are right there. There have been some games over the years with Gadsden City where Hewitt has clearly been the better team, and they've proved it on the scoreboard. But if you go through that history, especially since Josh Floyd took over in 2014, they've had some real tests. So, you mentioned coach speak, and, Coach Floyd will say, hey, they're athletic, they're a tough matchup in this way, but he's drawing off of history of playing this team. I've seen it in the playoffs with Hewitt at Gadsden City, making that trip up 59. So, Hewitt's going to have to be on top of its game, I think, to get the win. Honestly, I think it's potentially that good of a matchup. The Titans just beat Muscle Shoals to kick off the season. That's a really good win. So I think Gadsden City is a force to be reckoned with in 6A. And I think they're gonna, make that drive down 59, and they're not looking for moral victories. I think they're looking to come in and spoil Friday night for Hewitt-Trussville and get a win. And I think all things fall their way, they're more than capable of playing well enough to beat them. So Hewitt-Trussville can't be looking ahead to region play. They've got to really lock in on this one, and I think it's going to be a great game.
Yeah, and you mentioned their win against Jag last week was, just honestly a good game for them to get their guys out there, see what they get comfortable, all that. You got new starting quarterback in Noah Dobbins, who threw the ball really well last week. Jacob Serena and Dylan Cope on the outside, those guys are really good. So and then they ran the ball well with a host of guys. So we'll see. I kind of agree with what you said. So we'll see what the Huskies have this week. See if they see how they handle a little bit of adversity with some guys that don't have a ton of experience, and see how they respond. So, all right, Gary, I think we hit all of them. That is a full slate for week 2. One thing that I was a little jealous that you got to last Thursday, you got to go see an old friend of ours. You went out to Moody as Moody took on Gainesville, Georgia. Gainesville is a program in Georgia that has been a power before, had kind of slipped into mediocrity a little bit in recent years, and then they came in and hired Josh Niblett from Hoover, and he's gone over there. They built an amazing athletic facility that probably rivals some college Division I schools. And he's been rolling. He has won a ton of games there in the last few years, hasn't lost very many of them. And I don't know, Gary, you saw him. Did you kind of nudge him and say, hey, like, you're welcome back in Alabama at any time? Like, how'd that go?
Yeah, I'm just waiting to break that news of the school. He told me that he's going to come back. No, I'm just playing. No, he's pretty well set in Georgia. You know the deal these days. You get your years in Alabama, and then you head across that line and make that good Georgia money on top of it. It's smart business decision. A lot of coaches have done it, and he's got that program rolling. That Gainesville team will certainly compete for a state championship in Georgia this year. Might be the front runner. Who knows? Moody coach Jake Gaines, who's been at Thompson. So he's faced Hoover in its heyday. He's coached some of those Thompson teams. I asked him about that after the game. I was like, how does this team, being a team from Georgia, how do they kind of compare? And he was like, they compare to Thompson. They compare to Hoover of old. He was like, the way it works in Georgia, they're a 5A team, but they got 2,300 students over there. Like Josh kind of has his pick of the litter. He's like, we got 600 over here. Not making excuses, but that's just kind of the difference there. And Georgia gets to put on the pads earlier. They had already played a jamboree. They'd already played a game, and Moody was getting its first shot. At some live action against another team, but Josh did humor me with a good answer. I asked him post game, I was like, you're coming back, your first game back in Alabama. It's not like you were playing at Hoover, you were out here at Moody. But I was like, was it just a complete business trip, or were you able to have a moment where you drove past the Hoover Met, or did you get to see anything familiar to you? And he kind of laughed, and he said, I'm gonna read it so I get it right. But he said it was a business trip. He said he mostly saw 3 things: a Cracker Barrel, the Hewitt Trustful Pavilion practice field, which I assume Coach Floyd let them use for like their walkthrough and their practice, and the Hampton Inn in Leeds. So he said those were the things I saw before I got out here to Bill Morris Stadium in Moody. So complete business trip. His players picked him up, put him on their shoulders after the game. They wanted to win one for Coach back in his home state. So that was cool to see, and it was good to talk to someone that we've covered for so long, and just a little weird to see him not in orange and black, but in red.
Yep. Now, I'm sure he looked out the window and had some fond memories when they were driving through Calhoun County on I-20 all his days and in that part of the state, in Oxford and everywhere else. So, all right. Well, Gary, that is our week 1 wrap up, week 2 look ahead. Be sure you're following Under the Lights on social media at Underlights365 on Twitter. Just search Under the Lights on everything else, and you will find us there. If you are not already subscribed to our Saturday morning newsletter, you need to do that as well. We will drop a QR code down here so you can get that, because that's the first place you can vote for our Under the Lights Player of the Week, which we will drop in that newsletter as well. So thanks to everyone who voted for this week's Player of the Week. Will Odell, congratulations. We will see you guys next time. It's going to be a great week of high school football. Stay tuned all week long. We'll have content rolling out.